In the early days of the pandemic, the longest, hardest days of being trapped at home, my social media feed was clogged full with pictures of bread. I don't know how many of you participated in that trend. Anyone here? Yeah, participate, yeah. But so many of us found ourselves drawn to baking bread when trapped at home for weeks on end. There was a shortage of Fleischmann's yeast, if you can remember that far back, and I remember laughing. My sister-in-law had gone on the internet to locate some, and she accidentally bought 2 pounds of active dry yeast to be shipped to her home. Mind you, you only need about a teaspoon or 2 per loaf, so she's still working her way through that. What was the fascination with creating bread? In this moment of crisis, when given extra time at home, why this widespread desire to bake bread? I lamented, why must I be subjected to 1,000 pictures of your sourdough? But truly, it seemed primal. This simple pastime, something essential in a time of unknowns and a time of grief, that with our own 2 hands we can knead flour and water with yeast, give it a little bit of time and attention, and produce something delicious, something nourishing. At a time of so many questions about our future and upheaval, bread seemed like a pretty good link to the past, a way to get grounded, rooted even, in the human capacity to survive. Bread is at the cornerstone of human civilization. The ability to harvest grain and create bread can be seen depicted in hieroglyphics around the temples in ancient Egypt, dating back 6,000 years. Bread is mentioned throughout the Old and New Testaments. Think of the matzah, the unleavened bread, that represents that rush to liberation by the Jews as they fled bondage during Passover. Think of the manna from heaven that the Quran notes sustained the Israelites as they wandered in the desert. Bread is a part of our story as religious people. Bread is a part of what links us to all the generations that came before. This connection, this link to bread and the people it fed, can be felt most acutely in the starters of sourdough. In a process called backslopping, a phrase which I will repeat only once from the pulpit, a little bit of dough is reserved, held back from the day's baking, so that the organic living cultures can be incorporated into tomorrow's dough, where a small piece will once again be held back. Some of these cultures have been carried down generation to generation, and in the Puratos Sourdough Library, located about 90 miles southeast of Brussels, Belgium, you'll find scientists who collect these specimens and the stories that accompany them, of families that preserved these starters over hundreds of years. Like Daniele Uditi, a pizza maker from Caserta, Italy, who smuggled his family's bakery's almost 70-year-old starter to Los Angeles and uses it to form the perfect crust on his Neapolitan pies. There's Ione Christensen, an 89-year-old home baker from Whitehorse, Canada, who claims that the crunchy, chewy sourdough waffles she makes come from her starter that dates back to the Klondike Gold Rush. Well, she says, I can trace it back positively to 1898. That was when my great-grandfather and his 4 sons left St. John's, New Brunswick in February of 1898 for the Klondike Gold Rush. And it's been in our family ever since. Each sourdough starter, something of a testament to all that came before, all the doughs that it helped create and were held back from, and all the doughs and loaves that will come after it. It is a living organism, a literal culture, which holds the past and the future bound up in one gooey matrix. Love doesn't just sit like a stone, writes famed science fiction writer Ursula K. Le Guin. It has to be made like bread, remade all the time, made new. And so it is on this final Sunday of February, whose monthly theme was love, and as our visioning process for this congregation gains momentum, as we begin to think about our past and how we are together in our present and what we are hoping for the future, I realized we are like bread. In this congregation, we hold the stories of all that came before, of the theologies that built stained glass marvels to the pure of heart, of the basement hardcore shows which make us a hallowed institution for punk rock. The hundreds of children who have been educated and nurtured by the Beacon Center and Little Miracles occupying the top floor and the basement of this place, by the thousands who have been held in the embrace of NA and AA meetings in our folding chairs. And we are one bound up matrix of goo, stuck to one another, a living, breathing culture of Unitarian Universalism, molded by the air and the light and heat of our particular conditions, but hopeful and determined to contribute to the future, churning out new ideas, new ways for our community to take shape. Each of those sourdough starters which made the trip across oceans, which survived harsh winters and new, unproven hands, they were tended to with love and warmth. They were guided by people who believed in the essential and necessary quality of a few simple ingredients that together can fill the belly and bring people together and inspire conversation around a table. And so too did this place, this church, survive and thrive, guided by people who may have been unproven or new in the ways of congregational life, but who believed in the necessity of faithful community, in the essential quality of preserving a place where liberal religious tradition could take root, where we could ask big questions and sit with not knowing the answers, where we could be guided by love and slowly but surely become something bigger than ourselves, to rise and fill out the bowl. As you take the tours of these spaces and you begin to ponder our present, I want you to remember with pride the way this congregation flourished despite bad fluorescent lighting. The way this congregation has worshiped deeply despite cold winters in an underheated sanctuary. Remember that those stone steps outside were the site of a decade of protesting against the Vietnam War. That those wooden pews you sit in now held the weight of a young Martin Luther King Jr. as he learned of Gandhi's campaign of nonviolent direct action in India. The history of this place is with us, present now. And we ask, what of it do we need to bring with us into the future? The mission of this congregation is to awaken love and justice in our lives and in the world. And we need the right container, the right ingredients to give rise to the truest embodiment of that mission. As we embark on this visioning process together, what conditions would allow this community to ferment a culture that produces the most beautiful, truest expression of our values? What do we need to take with us from past versions, past iterations, the parts that are still alive in us now? What comes with us into the next form we are to take? Love is not stone. It is like bread. It needs to be made, remade, made new all the time. Love is at the foundation of this religion. It is at the core of our mission and our vision for this community. How are we to make love new? What is required for us and for all of our resources and all of our talent and our time? How are we to answer the call to make anew this place? Before I preached, Louisa shared words from Reverend Dan Schatz, a recipe for Unitarian Universalist bread. There is an art in knowing when to let go, he writes, and give it time. Allow to rise. Marvel in the transformation as bread takes form, love lifting all. Bake in a warm and nurturing oven, enjoy with others, make again and again, tweaking proportions, ingredients, and timing as you will, each loaf a new creation. And when you are ready, pass the recipe on. Together with all you have learned so that this bread is always fresh. And then feed one another. We are like bread, love like bread, the sourdough starter as a living, breathing thing, a symbol of love and nourishment. And just like the starters which got passed down from across continents and generations and inherited by neighbors who gave it to you during a pandemic, we are all bound up in the past. We are all bound up in the present and in the future. With warmth and tenderness and time, we will make something that fills our bellies and recalls all those hands that made the bread before. May we be worthy of the legacy we inherited. May we be gentle with the present that we share. And may we be bold in our determination of the future. May it be so, and amen.
Hi, I'm Reverend Hannah Capaldi.
And I'm Reverend Abby Tennis. We are the ministers at the First Unitarian Church of Philadelphia, where our mission is to awaken love and justice in our lives and in the world.
We're so grateful that you watched, and we hope that the sermon connected with your soul.
We also want to invite you to join us for a live worship service every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You can always find the link to that service on our website at www.philauu.org. In these services, you'll hear words like you've just heard, and you also get a chance to greet one another, pray together, sing together, and we even hold a virtual coffee hour after services to get a chance to greet some new and old friends.
If you want to support the mission of this community and you feel moved to give, you can do so by going to the website that Reverend Abby just mentioned. You can find that link below, or you can text 215-709-5095 and follow the prompts to give.
If someone in your life needs to hear these words today, we encourage you to share this video. And again, thank you so much for watching.
We hope to see you soon.